As of this morning, I'm still in my house. Nothing they happen. Okay, we're alive. I'm sure.
Okay,
Or almost.
yes, we are.
Okay. Okay.
It's going to be an interesting show.
Yep.
Love music, love life. You are now listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's a part of Smooth Breakfast, and it's time for us to discuss the national headlines, the news making the headlines here in Nigeria. You're always welcome to be a part of the conversation because your opinion, your conversation, your civil contributions matter. And so please send that to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 4440981. And you can decide to go to YouTube and join us at youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos at smooth 981 FM Lagos. It means you can also drop your comments using the live chat option and be a part of it. And if you decide to do the X way, that is hashtag freshly pressed 981 at smooth 981 FM is the handle to tag on X or Twitter. My name is Oluwaseun, and to do the analysis this morning, joining me virtually, I do have Mr. C, who's on socials at Monsieur C. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Lagos.
Thank you. And joining me also, I have Mr. A.B. Bozimo, who's on socials at A.B. Bozimo. Good morning.
Good morning, June. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners. I like the dance steps we were doing just as the show came on.
I mean, looking at all the news that we have lined up, I am going to need the energy to deal with something negativity this morning. But let's get right into it and go to the one coming from Daily Trust. Will implement Supreme Court judgment without reservations. And this is coming from Governor Fubara. Mr. C?
Okay, thank you, Sean. So on Friday, the Supreme Court delivered judgment in four appeals before it concerning various portions of the protracted political disputes going on in the River State. Now, it's important to note at the beginning of the show that the key issue, which is the alleged or non-alleged defection of members of the House of Assembly, was not considered by the Supreme Court. And the reason is simple. That matter is still pending before the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt Division, and a judgment hasn't been delivered. Now, what did the Supreme Court say on Friday? The Supreme Court said on Friday that the local government elections that were conducted in River State towards the end of last year, did not substantially comply with the electoral law, and therefore they was declaring them null and void. And they were also reinstating the order that had frozen allocations to River State from the Federal Allocations Committee. Now, they also did say that these alleged defectors or non-defectors, depending on which side of the political divide you belong to, should resume office as members of the House of Assembly. So the River State governor, I understand, made a statewide broadcast yesterday, and he did inform the people of River State that he would obey the judgment of the Supreme Court, even though he did not agree with them. And he said that following a meeting with his team of lawyers, he would wait to receive the official certified copy of the judgment before taking the next steps. In the interim, he's asked the individuals who were elected as chairman under the previous local government election to hand over to the heads of the various local government areas, pending when fresh elections will be conducted. Now, we note that when I say the former local government chairman now, these were the local government chairman in office before the local government elections were conducted, has threatened or promised, depending again on which side of the divide you belong to return to office. Now that I find very strange because under the law, the tenure of office has ended. But the drama in River State continues to unfold. And just as we were saying before the show started, I still cannot explain why the judgment at the Federal High Court is still pending. That should be delivered, that should have been delivered very swiftly so that the people of River State know in time whether they have a full complement of House of Assembly members or not. But Shane will continue to watch as development unfold. Let's see what happens today in Port Harcourt.
Mr. Ivy, this is your state. What do you have to say?
I would just say, at the heart of all of this, unfortunately, I think the Rivers people are ill served because the notion of having allocations frozen, the allocations were not just for the governor or the people in the National Assembly. The allocations ostensibly are supposed to be for the good of the people, the generality of the populace. So this calls to mind, I don't know whether there are any parallels with one time when in Lagos State, back in the day when there was a governor, then Tinubu, something happened where monies were not brought to to Lagos State, and Governor Tinubu went. I think they created extra local government development areas, and they went ahead and administered them for a number of months or years, and maybe in that time even strengthened the the revenue generating capacity of Lagos State. I don't know whether there are parallels or not. But the bottom line is, if you say that the allocations are not coming to River State, part of those allocations are revenues from River State. So are we also stopping the revenues from River State to go to the federal government and then, therefore, I mean, is it one way only? I'm just curious. I don't know the answer. But the bottom line is the good people of River State are ill served by this judgment. And indeed, it takes me a certain number of minutes to read a story, such as those sent to me this morning. Something happened, some people allegedly defected. I would have thought, imagined, hoped even that the issue of that defection, whether it is proper or not, would have been solved long before now, because that would have helped, I think, resolve certain things. We shall wait and see, like you said, Mr. C.
All right, thank you very much. And then we move on to this headline coming from Daily Post. Foreign Affairs Minister Tuga outlines Nigerians' government's plan to combat food insecurity. How much of a plan is this plan, Mr. Ibe?
Well, today is the 646th day of this administration in place. We have about 815 days left, and we're still outlining a plan. I think there is a bit of a problem with that. We should have by now surely been well on the way to implementing elements of a plan. If you even look at it from a project management perspective, there is a time for planning, that is not in doubt. But for 646 days, we're still outlining a plan. We're not even talking about some milestones we should have achieved. It was said by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And that also is curious to me, why the Minister of Foreign Affairs is the one speaking about food insecurity. I would have imagined that there is supposedly a minister for the agricultural sector, one way or the other. But be that as it may, let's take it as unified cabinet where people are aware of what others are doing and therefore can speak. He's talking about assuring the rights to the land, and I'm asking, was there a question about their land being taken? They talked happily about trying to deal with flooding. We are sitting down on the second or so of March, and 3rd of March, and we know that Nigeria has two seasons. We're not like those people who have four. We have only two, rainy and dry season. So right now, we know that rains are coming. What are we doing right now to prevent or to reduce the impact of flooding? I would like to know, because flooding has been one of the things that has affected that community. Bottom line, outlining a plan on day 646 of an administration that ends in about just over 2 years, I think is well behind the schedule I'd expect. But they do say the day a man wakes up is his morning. Maybe the day administration wakes up is their morning. Perhaps with this plan being outlined, they will get busy, get to work, and ensure that the devastation from last year's floods and so on is prevented from repeating itself, and also fertilizers and all that are given to the people and they're properly supported. I'm happy to hear that they have a plan. I'd really be even happier to hear that they're implementing it.
Thank you. You can join this conversation by sending your WhatsApp messages to 0809 444 0981. Please include your name if you're sending a message for the first time. Mr. C will come to you for the story from The Punch, reporting that the Christian Association of Nigeria has issued an ultimatum to the government of Bauchi, Katsina, Kano, and Kebbi states demanding the reversal of their directives that is mandating a 5-week closure of schools for the Ramadan fast.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Now, before I start, I'm going to have to put in a caveat. Nigerians generally struggle with comprehension, and it gets worse, sadly, when you get into the urban areas where you think that people will be a bit more educated, will be a bit more open-minded, and can actually read in between the lines and understand what's been said. And sadly, we've witnessed this on this show, where listeners do not listen to what the analyst is saying and then conjure all sorts of positions. Now, having said that, this is a very sensitive topic because, first of all, it involves religion. Two, the Muslims are embarking on their annual fast, which we know as Ramadan. Now, 4 states, like Sean said, Bauchi, Katsina, Kano, Kebbi, have completely frozen schooling during this period and are saying that their students in those states should be allowed to completely observe the fast. Now, I'm going to look at this first from a legal perspective. Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria amended says, no government, federal or state shall adopt a religion. What does that mean to the unlearned or the people who are non-lawyers? In very simple, basic English, it means that Nigeria is a secular state and cannot legally adopt any religion as a religion in either the state level or the federal government level. Now, yes, I hear people say, but Mr. C, we have Sharia law in place in several parts of the country. That is a conversation for another day, because that is part of the mystery and the intrigues that have bedeviled Nigeria since independence. Now, having said that, there are students in each of these 4 states who are not Muslim adherents, right? Now they're being told to stay at home for 5 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks doing what precisely? Now, it's interesting to know that the 4 states are part of a region where you can find the highest concentration of eligible students who are outside school. Now, more importantly, in Saudi Arabia, which is the custodian of the Holy Land, the holy sites, they don't shut down school during Ramadan. Are we saying that the Muslims in these 4 states are holier than the Muslims in Saudi Arabia? That's question number 1. Now, question number 2 is, this is not the first Ramadan fast being observed in Nigeria. There have been previous Ramadan fasts observed since this country became independent. And we're talking about 64 different Ramadan seasons. So if it wasn't a problem then, how did it suddenly become a pressing issue now? Now, during the period of Lent, will these same 4 states close schools again so that the Christian students can easily observe the Lent period? Another question that remains unanswered. And in all of this, I'm not sure the attorney generals of the respective states properly advised the governors before these announcements were made. Now, Khan is making a valid point that these schools should not be shut down during the Ramadan fast. I'm not so sure about the ultimatum because really and truly, Khan doesn't have coercive powers. So whatever it says, it truly can't enforce. Even if it goes to court, before you can make any appreciable headway in the case, the Ramadan season will officially be over. Remember, Ramadan is 30 days. But the bigger question we need to ask ourselves collectively is, how did we get here? How does observing the Ramadan season, shutting down schools completely, make the students in these particular states better students? How does it make the state a better state? Because if you can shut down schools for students, you can be rest assured that productivity in those states, especially within the state civil services of the respective states, will be equally low. We need to decide what we're planning to do as a country and how we want to move forward. But like I said, Khan has the right arguments, but they lack coercive powers. And this is an argument that we can't continue to kick down the road. We have to decide once and for all, is Nigeria a secular state or not? And sadly, until we're ready to have that conversation, we'll continue to witness episodes like this.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything to that? Please go ahead.
Indeed. I happen to have gone to a school in Kaduna, Federal Government College, Kaduna. And ironically, at least for those 5 years, we had the fasting period. And it was actually fun in a certain way because all of us, Christian and Muslims, would all wake up nice and early in the morning so that the Muslims would have their pre-dawn breakfast. We didn't eat among them, but we felt a kinship and had an appreciation of their religious duty. And it was something where we tried to even make sure that during that fasting period, we didn't overtly eat in their faces. There was something where we're working together. So there wasn't a case where we had to shut down school for our colleagues to fast. We had an appreciation of that. So I just don't, like me, I just don't know when we got to the point where we think it makes any rational sense to entirely shut down schools because of fasting. Everyone in Nigeria has Muslims as associates, close friends, and all that. And we respect the religion. But I think it is one of the most backward things to think that in Saudi Arabia, they're not shutting down. In Saudi Arabia, they're trying to go to space. In Saudi Arabia, they're building the cube, the line, all these things. And here in Nigeria, where we have Bauchi with a wonderful hot spring that should be a tourist attraction and have other things in other states we're trying to shut down, makes no sense.
Sense just reminds me of a meme I saw on socials, and the person said, and I quote, "Sense has always been chasing you, but you have always been faster."
Rather too fast.
Look at the quality of some decisions, and I remember that. We'll take some messages before we cross over to the next stories, and I'll get started with this one from Mr. Ajayo Lonilua from Magodo GRE Sherry, who says, "Good morning, Oluwaseun. It's the end of the road for Governor Fubara, as the Supreme Court has ordered all the members of the State Assembly to resume duties, including those that were alleged to have defected. Waiting for another judgment of the Federal High Court on the same issue is an exercise in futility." Then I have Francis who says, "It's so funny how Nigerian practices religion more than the Saudis or more than the Roman Pope. How does a state government close down a school for a month for a region that's already having 54% out of school kids? We're joking with important things." Dotun says, "Your analyst is spot on with his analysis of shutting schools during Ramadan. We need to separate religion from education. However, to clarify the point, there are no basis of comparison of Muslims and Muslims in Saudi Arabia are not holier than Muslims in Bauchi, to each his religion." Oluwaseun says, "Religion is more valued and more important than education in Nigeria. Education is an afterthought in the scheme of things in Nigeria because education doesn't win you elections in Nigeria. Religion does. That's how backward thinking we are as a people. Nigerian politicians are very good at using religion and ethnicity to their advantage. It is what it is." Actually make that a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if you saw the comment of former Governor Achike Udinwa earlier, I think that over the weekend, where you mentioned that with lots of money and many some other things, you can win any election. So it's not just religion that he wields now. Daniel in Festag, who says, "Hello, Smooth FM. I am perplexed by the news on the closing of schools for Ramadan. Should we close schools because we're in Lent and Easter? Why are Muslims forcing non-Muslims to abide by their religion? Does this mean that they cannot write UME or WAEC during Ramadan? What of universities? Do they choose to? What what this current set of politicians have done to incite religious intolerance in Nigeria is frightening. The Tinubu government needs to step in to stop the descent into chaos. Quickly moving to Olawale from Abuja, who says the fact that the entire government of these states could not internally debate the school closure says a lot about our inability to self-regulate in any of our lives. And on YouTube, Tajuddin Abduhadi says, good morning, Sheon, AB, and Mr. C. Even the religion they are adopting does not allow docility, even in Ramadan. I have said it time and time again. Most of our leaders are the dullest among us. All right, I will go back to the messages later on as we move to the story about banning movement of articulated vehicles at daytime not feasible. This is coming from Guardian, and this is coming from Dr. Alban Igwe, who is a member of the United Nations Committee on Trade and Transport Location. Mr. Ibi?
The bottom line is that there is some belief that, okay, these larger trucks should only drive at night. And they say it's in the interest of safety and all that. I counter that if the roads are properly, and that is actually what this person says in the story, if the roads are properly maintained and you have proper enforcement of, proper driving procedure, articulated trucks are and should be as safe as any other vehicles on the roads. Let me put it this way. Do you know that the regulation of articulated trucks in the US, across the entire continental US, they have just 4 teams of inspectors who can appear on any highway in any state at any time because they really regulate the loads on those trucks. And if a trucker is found to have overloaded the truck, the punishment is so steep. So you'll be driving along the road, you'll just see a truck weighing station. Typically for a car, it has nothing to do with you. But for a trucker, at any time, there could be a sign saying, turn in there, let's weigh you. And the fear of being caught doing the wrong thing makes truckers truly stay on the, straight and narrow. Of course, coupled with well-maintained roads, you don't have these situations where you're driving next to a truck and you're wondering whether the container is going to fall on you, or as we have seen, sometimes some containers have indeed fallen. Or lorries, there was one very terrible video where an articulated truck with fuel fell into a stream and literally disappeared. We've seen these things too often. Unfortunately, you have the other ones where the trucks fall and people come and scoop fuel, which is the most reckless thing to do, and they die. But instead of focusing, it's like when you hear the story, so and so vehicle built for Nigerian roads. Why are Nigerian roads not made for any vehicle? Why must a particular car be built specifically to deal with torture, if you want to call it that, on Nigerian roads? Bottom line, it is not feasible. And the person makes very good points. If you are forcing people to move only at a certain time, what if they take their goods out of the ports and they have met night? Now they're on the clock. Who is paying for that extra time? The bottom line is this is an example. I think this is supposed to be passed in the Nigerian National Assembly. It's an example of why Nigerian National Assembly is one of the most wasteful organizations on the surface of planet Earth. They are not passing things that would make Nigeria better. What point is there in insisting on trucks working at night rather than insisting that Nigerian roads are properly maintained? If you have something, make a case where if because of the roads in a certain place, the minister or the commissioner of works or so and so in a state has a liability, you will find very quickly that those roads will be improved. But right now, this is diversionary, is daft, and is pointless.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so very quickly, so they banned articulated trucks, they banned 60,000 liter trucks. What next are they going to ban? Questions, questions, and questions.
And then the final note on that one, I think we need to realize that some of these things are not in isolation. I mean, when you raise the issue of port clearing, the time it takes, there are so many things involved that you cannot just isolate one thing and ban it outrightly. They are interconnected. It's a system.
So, okay,
Okay.
so, sorry. 20 seconds or 30 seconds. We now have a port on the Lekki corridor of Lagos State. Traveling along the Lekki-Ekpa Expressway at night, the lights are off. If a truck falls down during the night, there are no rescue teams to get it up and out of the way before the early morning rush starts the next day. What exactly is the plan?
Disappear. Moving on to the story from Punch. Corpers knock federal government over unpaid 77,000 naira allowance, Mr. C.
Okay, so very quickly, in July 2024, this administration announced that it had increased the allowances it would give corpers serving under the National Core Service here from 33,000 naira a month to 77,000 naira a month. I do recall at the time the story broke, I did question where the money would come from for all of this. And I'm very saddened that 8 months later, I've been proven right. They still haven't started receiving the 77,000 naira. People who were core members when the announcement was made have either passed out or will soon pass out and will not collect that money. More importantly, those who are about to join or have just joined, there is no indication they will collect the money. Now, all of this points to something. There's no money. Even though we've ramped up crude oil production, we're now hitting close to 2 million barrels per day. There still isn't sufficient money to go around. And that's why we continue to go around begging, borrowing, and it really is tragic. If you don't have the money, don't make the announcement. When you have the money, make the announcement because is just another episode that adds to the widening trust deficit between the government and the people.
May I counter that there is money. The priorities on what to do with money simply don't include ordinary people. There is money. We built a 21 billion naira house, which currently is not occupied because of some other things. We have also some monies we spend on other things, but on the students who have come out who need a slight increment on their money, no, there is not enough money for that. So there is money. It's just not for you or the coppers or me.
Thank you, Mr. AB. As we move to the final story, still talking about money, but this time it's coming out of your pockets. The new ATM fees, customers groan as banks begin the implementation.
It's most unfortunate that as a person who makes the time and takes this, that takes their time to go to your own bank's ATM, you are still going to be charged. They have three rules. One, at your own bank, you charge the 100 naira. At your own bank, but not in a banking premises, you have a surcharge. Of course, when you go with your own card, with your own open eyes to another bank, anything you see, you take. So here's the thing. Many people are saying Nigerian banking sector wants to become the world's largest POS, industry. And I'll say that there's a difference. Somebody in the story said that for 20,000, they were charged 100 naira. They said that that's more than the POS. I don't know which POSs they use because where I get from POS, it's certainly more than that. So on one side, it's cheaper than the POS, but I'm afraid that in many instances where maybe there's going to be change now with this surcharge, but I've gone to ATMs. One, you can get only a limited amount of money, or two, you don't see functioning ATMs. You go there and they just tell you, in fact, the security person tells you from the gate because he sees your eye is sharp. He says, money not there. So you turn away and you are forced to the hands, the cold grasp of the POS operators. I think the charge of 500 naira is rather high. I'm not saying that you can't get a small cost, but all these various things that were charged by banks, the end of the month just came in. Everybody got ATM and so on charges for this and that. Aren't those part of the monies that should go towards maintaining these ATMs? For goodness sake, they typically declare trillions or billions each year. I would think that a line item among that could go for these ATM charges. But if it must be, let it not exceed 100 naira. 500 naira sounds harsh for whatever you're doing away from your own bank's ATM. I just feel that that sum is rather high.
Thank you. We'll quickly run through some messages as we draw the curtains for today. Tajuddin says, good morning, Sheon, Mr. C and AB. Closing school is not Islamic. It must be their culture over there, or those that intend to close the schools are brain dead. And Michael says, I feel these four states are using this closure as a test run of things to come. Habib from England says, good morning, Oluwaseun. Thank you to the awesome analyst in the studio this morning. As a Muslim, a practicing one at that, it is completely wrong Islamically to shut down schools during Ramadan. In fact, seeking knowledge and learning is a core part of Islam, and Muslims are instructed by dictates of religion to implement continuous lifelong learning, especially during Ramadan. I do have Olu who says, I can relate with the analyst at school in FGC Kaduna. I attended FGC Mina in the 1980s. Our school was never shut down during Ramadan. Thank you. And Ebiladi Ambo from Badagry says, the Muslim North is embarking on a self-destructive mission, denying children education for religious reasons, even if it's for one day, will make them fanatics. It is not like holidays. Fabian from Ekwe says, good morning, everyone. In some countries, trucks drive at night to reduce congestion and rush hour traffic. The government does need to monitor the safety of trucks as they're often in poor conditions and do cause a lot of accidents. Continuous road maintenance is a must, and the trucks to the Dangote refinery now cause traffic congestion on an almost daily basis. Emo from Ikeja says, our government's best strategy, ban it. Idema Putza says, Nigeria, a secular nation, finds out that our Muslims are now holier than Saudi Arabia. That's why schools have to shut down for Ramadan fasting. Probably all the pupils and students are Muslim. This country would never stop being hilarious. And Christy from Ikeja says, correction, on your own bank, you don't pay anything. And Francis says, truth be told, there are no more ATMs before now. Even if they do want to charge the 100 Naira fee, most banks don't even bother putting money inside the ATM because they are cutting down cost of maintenance. And Bola says, the government in connivance with the banks are all set to keep extorting the people. Well, we have to call it a morning for today. Thank you for being a part of the show, for your contribution and your messages. Thank you, Mr. AB. Thank you, Mr. C. I look forward to having you again.
Thank you. People should remember that the numerical system we use actually originated from the Saudi Arabian area. This math that takes rockets to outer space started from that part of the world. So education is at the core of Islam. Let's never get it twisted. Have a wonderful week ahead, Sheon and Mr. C. God bless you both.
Okay,
And all
thank you.
Go on.
Yeah, we continue.
God bless all our listeners too. Thank you.
Thank you for having the show, and to all our listeners, I wish everyone a profitable, rewarding, and fruitful week ahead with all the attendant joy that it brings.
Thank you for listening, and we continue with the show because 8:15, we need to get into the locker room with Tega. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun, and you're listening to Smooth Breakfast. Let's go. Thank you very much.
Very much. Have a wonderful week. You're doing a great job. God bless you. Mr. C.
You.
Cheers.
Thank you, boss. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.